All right, I want to turn next to talk about the Epstein files because, doggone it, we are not going to forget about these damn Epstein files until they're released. And I want to bring in Dave Aronberg, our pal Dave Aronberg. Dave, great to see you. I haven't seen you in such a long time. It was just, what, Saturday night?
Jim, it was great seeing you there. I don't know if the audience realizes what an amazing sense of humor you have, how occasionally you'll throw the F-bomb. I know you do it more here on your Substack than on when you were on CNN, but
yeah,
I love Jim Acosta Unleashed. It's your best version of Jim Acosta.
I mean, Dave, I wouldn't drop so many F-bombs if things weren't so fucking crazy right now. So that's the issue. But it's great to see you. I was just having a great conversation with a terrific guy, John Avalon, buddy of mine from my old days. But Dave, I do want to talk to you about a couple of things. First of all, I mean, I want to talk about the Epstein files and the Maxwell deposition, or what was it? Not really a deposition, but it was an interview that she gave to Todd Blanche that was released, the transcript and the audio. And so I was able to touch on it somewhat last Friday because it came down in time for me to do it on my show. But the more I thought about it over the weekend, the more I thought Trump must be in a jam with these Epstein files. There's something in there they don't like. That Maxwell thing came across as just totally not credible. The fact that she would say to Todd Blanche, it's so extraordinary that Donald Trump has become the president and so on. What was your sense of that? And where do you think this thing is heading?
The interview with Ghislaine Maxwell was so unusual because, first off, you never have the number 2 person at the Department of Justice interview anyone, especially a convicted human trafficker. I mean,
right.
It's like impossible. If you really wanted to get information, you would send down a line prosecutor, someone who's well-versed, someone like Maureen Comey. That would be a person to send down.
There you go.
But she was fired.
Right.
But they could have sent down others who worked on the cases, but instead they sent down the number 2 person who was President Trump's former personal defense lawyer because they wanted exoneration for Donald Trump. That's why this whole thing existed.
That's why it happened. Yeah.
Right. And Ghislaine Maxwell read the room and gave them what they wanted, which was not only an exoneration. I've never seen him do anything inappropriate, but also I've always found him to be such an admirable, perfect gentleman. And I just admire him so much.
Yeah. Give me a break. Nobody thinks that about Donald Trump, not even the people who like him. I mean, give me a break. A gentleman.
Well, she wants that pardon.
She wants that pardon.
She may get it. I mean,
she may get it. Isn't that something?
It's amazing. Where are those QAnon folks now who are obsessed with child sex trafficking? What's going to happen if and when Ghislaine Maxwell gets a pardon? I suspect they'll say nothing. But right,
they still maybe it was never about. Maybe it was never about child sex trafficking. For the QAnon people, maybe it was just about and the people on the far right, and people like Kash Patel and so on who were saying they wanted to release the Epstein files. Maybe it was just about, as much as humanly possible, drive up as much hatred of Democrats as they possibly can. They're just so bad that they must be child molesters and pedophiles and sex traffickers and so on. Maybe it has nothing to do with getting to the bottom of this, because I mean, here you have somebody who is a convicted sex trafficker, and Trump moves her to a minimum security prison after she gives this bullshit interview to Todd Blanche. It's totally ridiculous. And apparently they turned over the Epstein files, the DOJ did, to the House Oversight Committee. What was it, last Friday? And I was just looking at this story over the weekend, Dave. Robert Garcia, who is the ranking Democrat on the committee, has said that of the files the committee had received, only 3% contained new information. The remaining 97% of the pages, he said, had previously been released by the Justice Department, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, David, which I think is the office that you once held. I guess, first of all, I mean, we should ask you about that a little bit, but I mean, your sense of the fact that Robert Garcia is saying there ain't much new here, of what they've turned over so far.
Yeah, so the Trump administration has been trying to placate the right-wing MAGA base by giving them piecemeal stuff. Well, we're going to seek the grand jury transcripts. But even if they were released, and they were never going to be released, but even if they were, it would just be a redacted version of something that didn't even move the needle. And then they said, well, we're going to have this meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. But nothing in there provides any insight other than her statement that Donald Trump didn't do anything inappropriate. By the way, there's never really any evidence that Donald Trump engaged in any criminal activity on this, which is why I never understood why he just doesn't say release the files. It's
Right.
like the cover up
There's
is worse than
something
the
weird
crime.
going on.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Why
So
is
that's
it?
what makes you and others believe, like, wow, is there really something in there? Because he just released the files. But he doesn't want the public to believe he had anything to do with Epstein. He wants to change history and say, I barely knew the guy. He's the coffee boy. He's like,
Yeah.
that's what
But
he.
Dave, the timeline is right. The timeline is that they went to him in May. Apparently, they had started going through it. They went to him in May, and they said you're mentioned multiple times in the Epstein files. Then they released that bullshit memo. Was it July 7th, saying nothing to see here. We're just going to move on now. No big deal. And then all hell broke loose. And it says to me they told him something in May that must have freaked him out. I mean, but prove me wrong. Release the damn files. What's going on here? We need to see the mentions of Donald Trump in those files. That has to be publicly released, or else we're just never going to get over this.
Well, I think, for example, the birthday card. He
Yeah.
Russ was told about it and didn't want that out there. And then when it did leak out there, he's suing the Wall Street Journal. But now Comer's committee is sending a subpoena to people who have the card, I guess, the estate, and so the file, the birthday file. And when Ghislaine Maxwell was asked specifically whether Trump had a card in that birthday file, she said she didn't remember. So
remember, I saw that part. Yes.
Right. She's trying to protect him on that. And again, putting a birthday card in the file was bawdy. It was a little naughty, but it's not illegal. And so
doesn't necessarily prove anything, but he does say something about wonderful secrets or something like that, right? There's
enigmas and stuff. Right. So that gets back to now Comer's subpoenas of the files, getting the files from DOJ. It now appears is that the Comer's committee does not have the entire file. They just have stuff that was given to him that was already been given to the public that the public already had, plus maybe 3%, something very small in addition. So there's still stuff out there that they don't have, that the public does not have. And that's why this story won't go away, because Trump's base was promised an Epstein list. There is no Epstein list, but they were promised that. They were promised the Epstein files. There is a file. They haven't gotten it. And they were promised that there would be names of Democratic elites, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Larry Summers, who committed child sex trafficking. This would be Pizzagate before there was ever Pizzagate. Yeah. This is a prequel to Pizzagate. And in reality, none of that stuff exists except for the Epstein files. It's not a Democratic cabal. And Trump now is stuck because he's hoist by his own petard. There's a metaphor from Shakespeare where he's not releasing it because he's concerned what's in it. But the public, the base is saying, you promised us. And now you're saying nothing to see here.
Yeah. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. But Dave, let's ask you about, so you were the state attorney for Palm Beach County. Did you ever have any dealings with this case? Just for folks at home who are wondering, well, what happened under Dave's watch when he was there? What does he know about it? I mean, I would suspect not a whole hell of a lot because you came along a little later. But what can you say?
I was a state senator during the time this was all going on. I got elected to this position as this position. I left the job as state attorney in January, but I got elected in November of 2012. And the Epstein deal, the non-prosecution agreement, occurred in 2008. So right. I had nothing to do with any of it. But later on, there's a local newspaper who sued me to get the grand jury transcripts. Mm-hmm. And I had to tell them, go to the court because I don't have them. Have them. And so that was the most I got brought into this. We released everything we had to the public, which is why you see it in the Epstein files. Everything we had was released. So I don't have any special inside knowledge, except I do know both Barry Krischer and Alex Acosta. And now Alex Acosta is going to be testifying voluntarily in, I think it's September 18th. It's around there on in front of Comer's committee.
Oh, so they have decided to bring him in.
That is the breaking news that Acosta has agreed. Now they didn't send him a subpoena.
Interesting.
They sent Hillary.
I have to remind people, no relation.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
I say this often, no relation. But anyway, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised based on a lack of competence if you got the subpoena instead of Alex Acosta. And if you did, I hope you'll show up, please,
I
please.
if they want to have me appear and testify, I'll be happy to share my thoughts on all sorts of things.
That would be the most must-see TV ever. Oh my gosh. So,
I would have a few things to say. We'll
yeah,
just put it that way.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
you're right. This was 1 hour ago. Politico reported the former labor secretary, Alex Acosta, will be interviewed in the House Epstein probe. You're absolutely right, Dave. Thank you for breaking that news for us because I did not see that. And because folks were wondering, well, it was Alex Acosta when he was the U.S. attorney, right, or working in the U.S. attorney's office, who cut that sweetheart deal for Epstein initially, and everybody was like, "What the hell is this?" Anyway,
yes. So
yeah,
I can tell you what I do know based
yeah,
on, I'm here in Palm Beach County. I know the players, or I did know. I haven't spoken to Alex Acosta in years, but here's what I know. So when Barry Krischer was state attorney, he had put this investigation through a grand jury, and according to sources within the office, they had trouble getting participation. The underage girls did not want to participate. There were some who did, and there's a lot of controversy about how the prosecutors treated them. And in my mind, mistakes were made by the prosecution. Mistakes were made, but keep in mind that back then we were living in a different time when if you were an underage individual who were engaging in sex acts for money, under the law, you were seen as a prostitute, a criminal. And that's why he was eventually charged with solicitation of prostitution. In
Mm,
reality, as we know today, they are victims. They should not be criminalized. They are victims.
right.
But back then, the law had not changed. The law has changed since then, and the way we think about it is different. What was to me most interesting is that the feds came in and were unsatisfied with the way that the state was handling it, so they took it away. And that's where Alex Acosta, as U.S. attorney, entered into a deal with Epstein to give him and actually to give him this deal where he pled guilty to state crimes. I don't know if I've ever
Right.
seen, yeah, I've never seen a federal prosecutor settle a case by a plea deal involving state crimes, not federal crimes, right? You will plead guilty to state crimes, and
Yeah. Why
he
would that
also
happen?
gave. I've never heard. I don't know, but the worst part is not even that, Jim. The worst
Yeah.
part is that they gave immunity to all co-conspirators, known and unknown. So anyone in the future that were involved in this, you get immunity. Wow, I've never heard of
Wow.
that. And they didn't tell the victims. So the victims, there's a federal law that requires the victims to be notified, and they were not. And so that's why the whole thing stunk. Now, today, Ghislaine Maxwell is before the Supreme Court saying, reverse my conviction because I got immunity. And quite frankly, it's not a bad argument for her because
She could pull this off, you think?
she could, because the Southern District of Florida gave her immunity. Now, the argument against that is you weren't part of the
Unreal.
agreement. How do you get immunity when you weren't even part of the investigation at the time? You weren't named, at least in the investigation. You weren't named
Yeah.
in the deal. But here's the better argument. The prosecutors are saying, yeah, that deal was from the Southern District of Florida. We're in the Southern District of New York now. We're not part of that deal. So
Ah,
whether that argument holds sway before the Supreme Court, we'll see. She has a decent shot of winning her appeal.
that's wild. And so when Alex Costa had the sweetheart deal and said, you can be, held on state charges or convicted on state charges. So that didn't have anything to do with you at that time.
Correct.
You,
I wasn't even in the office for another 4 or 5 years.
yeah.
So
Did you get a chance to review that and say, what the hell is this? Or it was done. There was nothing you do about it.
it was done. Imagine
Yeah.
that I was in a different role altogether in government, and then
Yeah.
I came in 5 years later. I took over in January 2013, and this wasn't even an issue. It was already done. This
Wow.
whole thing was done, and then the articles in the Miami Herald came out, and it reignited
Julie
everything.
Brown started doing
Right.
those stories. Yeah.
And then people said, "All right, Dave, now go ahead and go back and prosecute Jeffrey Epstein for state crimes now." And I said, he has a non-prosecution agreement. He's got immunity now. Like he and
Wow.
Ghislaine Maxwell. I can't
So,
prosecute.
so Alex Acosta really should be grilled. Again, no relation. He really should be grilled on the sweetheart deal that he gave at Jeffrey Epstein, and be asked why. Why
Right,
did that
because
happen?
there was an investigation afterwards.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice investigated, and they found that he messed up, that he exercised poor judgment, but nothing criminal. And that's why where people say,
Yeah.
well, he got paid off. No, I haven't seen any evidence of that. I don't know the
But
answer.
but Dave, the thing that disturbs me is, and because I was there when Alex Acosta was made the labor secretary, I was at the White House when Trump made this announcement. And as a matter of fact, that day, I think I've told this story before, Trump said to everybody in the room, "Oh, we made sure that he wasn't related to Jim." Like he literally said that at this event. You can go back. Must be a transcript of this somewhere. So this is always stuck in my mind, and it always made me wonder why in the hell was he made the labor secretary?
Marco Rubio, I think,
Yeah.
was friends with him and pushed him. He was,
Ah,
yes, yes. So
but
Alex,
strange,
well, Alex Acosta, before this thing blew up, enjoyed a good reputation. He was the U.S. attorney. He's a Harvard law guy, and he also was the president or the dean of FIU Law School. He had worked in government. He wasn't seen as a big partisan. And then
Interesting.
this whole thing blew up. And like, hold on, you're the guy who made the deal. Explain it. And then he did a press conference blaming it on Barry Krischer. Barry Krischer blamed it on him. And then Alex Acosta resigned.
He had to
And
resign.
then we haven't heard from him in years. So this will be very interesting. Notice he's not being subpoenaed by Comer's committee. He's going to appear voluntarily.
Yeah. But this has the potential for being one of the bombshell. Will he testify in front of the cameras? I wonder. They haven't been doing these in front of the cameras, have they? Bill Barr was behind closed doors, if I'm not mistaken, the other day. So, yeah.
I would hope this won't be before the cameras. I didn't mind that Bill Barr is behind. What is he going to tell us? I mean, we
What is he
already
gonna
know
tell
what he
us? Yeah,
thinks,
yeah.
right? But I hope this one is nationally televised live. I think that's because everyone wants to know this. And I do think that the Comer committee did not care to have him testify, but it was because of public pressure
Yes.
that compelled them to do this.
People were saying, why aren't you talking to Alex Acosta? How can you do a thorough investigation? And the omission says something too. To me, it says, well, why was he left out of this? They know that he was a key player. And, this was the reason why he had to resign. I mean, it completely nuts. Dave, just to switch gears a little bit, and I don't know what your thoughts are, so forgive me for asking you something just completely out of left field, but your thoughts on Trump sending these troops into these Democratic cities, the way he has been. I mean, he was even today talking like a dictator. He was saying, well, some people would like to have a dictator in this country.
Yeah.
You and I haven't had a conversation about some of this stuff in a long time, but your thoughts from a legal constitutional standpoint about what we're seeing unfold in this country right now. What stands out to you? What concerns you?
Well, it's hard for Democrats to go around saying that we shouldn't get tougher on crime. This is a playing field that Trump wants to fight.
He wants it. Yep.
Right. So we have to be careful at that. What the better answer is, we should fund the police.
Yes.
And that gets right. And that reverses the whole defund the police garbage that we fell into, which was ridiculous, which killed the Democrats. We fund the police instead of the federal government having to Bigfoot us. And it also telling that he's only doing this in Democratic strongholds. There are places, in fact, red states, red communities where crime rates are much higher than in DC.
That's right.
Right. So I think we want to be able to frame it correctly, that this is partisan and political. And if you want to do something about this, you'll do it the right way. We'll support the police. Also, it doesn't hurt to remind people that if Trump claims he's for law and order and the police, January 6th, January 6th, January 6th, and then the pardon. So you have to.
They get pissed if you throw a sandwich at a federal officer, but you can beat the shit out of them at the Capitol and get a pardon,
Exactly.
This
exactly.
is the game they're playing right now.
That Subway sandwich, we don't know how stale the bread was.
That's true. It was a club sandwich, as I said that day, I think. So
I'm sorry to laugh, but I mean, that's like, it is nuts. Now, that's why it's important. When you and I were in DC, I did see the federal troops, and they cannot engage in law enforcement. That violates the Posse Comitatus Act.
Right.
But they can assist. And so as long as they're assisting, it is not illegal. He can do this. That's the thing. Again, we have to realize in DC, he can also do it what he did in California. The courts upheld that as long as they're assisting. He doesn't, it used to be you have to go right through the governor. The courts are starting to get a little squirrely on that. But
interesting.
if the governor says, no, you didn't go through the governor, then it makes it hard. You can go through the courts then to try to figure it out. But right now, the federal courts sided
Or
with,
allowing him.
the Ninth Circuit, not a conservative circuit, sided with Trump when it came to the National Guard in California, federalizing the National Guard. So it's not clear that what he's doing yet is illegal, although you got to watch, because if they start enforcing local laws, like do the police work instead of the police, that would be illegal.
Yeah. Well, Dave, always a pleasure to talk to you. Always enjoy doing this. Great seeing you at Glenn Kirshner's event in DC the other night. That was a lot of fun. And yes, that was more my Vegas act, I guess you could say, the other night at the event. But always enjoy seeing you and what you have to say.
Thank you, Jim. I really enjoyed it. And I got to tell your audience that you were the best speaker. You were hilarious. And afterwards, people were talking about you, but they found out that you had left early. So I don't know if your ears were burning. You had other things to do, but everyone's like wanting to talk about Jim Acosta.
Oh, that's so kind. No. I did have to leave a little early that evening. It's a little busy these days. There's a lot going on in DC. But I hope folks didn't mind that too much. But Dave, great to see you as always. Thanks so much. And let's keep talking. Maybe we should reconvene when this Alex Acosta thing happens, because that's wild.
I'd love to come back on, Jim. Let's do it.
All right, great. Great to see you. Dave Aronberg, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Good stuff. I mean, that was terrific. Okay. So for my EP, Matt, when we put this up on YouTube, we now know what the headline is. Alex Acosta is going to testify. No relation. Just kidding, folks. Listen, I spent part of the weekend, and shoot, you know what? I should have sent my pictures over to Matt so we can pop them up. But over the weekend, I took a lot of pictures of these National Guard troops going up and down 14th Street, which is one of the main entertainment districts in Washington, D.C., for folks who aren't familiar with it. A lot of famous restaurants are there, a lot of fancy restaurants, a lot of regular restaurants, lots of bars and whatever. And as Dave was saying, okay, I guess this is legal. We do have some video the other. I have some video from the other day. Here it is. There's some National Guard guys enjoying some hot dogs. Yeah, I asked them how they were doing.
Welcome to DC.
The National Mall. And listen, we love our troops. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to throw a Subway sandwich at anybody. And I'm not going to say we don't support the troops because they're walking up and down the street here in Washington, D.C. We support the troops. I support the troops. I don't support Donald Trump turning the nation's capital into a police state. I don't support Donald Trump wanting to send the National Guard into Chicago and Baltimore. Earlier today he was, and I don't even want to play the video. He's so full of shit, telling people, oh, all the crime. If you look at the top cities with crime, it's Democratic cities. That's actually not true. That is actually false. But as I've said, and I'm going to say it again here, to get into a fact check war with a pathological liar is just, it's about as effective as pissing into the wind. And I don't need to do it. We know he's lying. We know he's a liar. And we know he's out of control. And the question becomes, we're coming up on Labor Day weekend, and shortly after that, Republican lawmakers, all the lawmakers will be coming back to Washington up on Capitol Hill. And the Republicans are going to get a gander at what Donald Trump has been up to this summer, turning the nation's capital into a police state, into the district of Trumplandia. And it's got to stop. And the Republicans need to ask themselves, because, you can redistrict yourselves until the cows come home. You just have a ball with that. Keep doing that. Accountability is coming. The midterms are coming. And I'll be damned if I'm going to raise the white flag at this point and say, oh, there's no way the Democrats are going to win back the Congress. I think there's a chance they win back the House and possibly the Senate at this point, because Trump is going to be so unpopular. And he's going to have to put National Guard troops outside of polling stations and ICE and so on to scare the shit out of people so they don't vote. And they're still going to vote anyway. And when that accountability comes, we're going to start to get to the bottom of this. He was saying earlier today, we should play that one more time if Matt can play it, of Trump talking about being a dictator. If we can
As you all know, Chicago's a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense and I'm a smart person.
He's openly saying that people in this country want a dictator. Who wants a dictator? Who among us in this country wants a dictator? Nobody is saying that. But he gave away the game there. He told on himself. Donald Trump, you told on yourself right there. You want to be the dictator. You want to push us around. And maybe that's the message that Democrats need to seize upon here in the coming days. We're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to be bullied by you. Nobody wants a dictator in this country. What he said right there absolutely gave away what is going on inside his mind right now. He thinks like a dictator and he's acting like a dictator. And I will say to the people who are in charge of the National Guard at the state level, they need to remind their soldiers, they need to remind their troops that they are here to protect the Constitution of the United States. They're here to serve the people of the United States. They're not here to serve Donald Trump. They're not here to serve a dictator. They're here to protect us. That Constitution still means something in this country. The reason why we are a country is because we rejected the idea of a king. We rejected the idea of a dictator. Donald Trump says, oh, a lot of us would like to have a dictator. No, but nobody is saying that except you. And now we know. Now we know. You said it when you were running for president that you would be a dictator on day one. You still have it on your mind. You still have this dictator fetish, this dictator curiosity. It's we the people, as the viewer just said there. It's we the people. And let me tell you something. We the people are going to stop you. We the people are not going to be pushed around. We the people are not going to be bullied by a wannabe dictator. My thanks to Dave Aronberg. My thanks to John Avalon. Really appreciate everybody for watching. I do want to brag on the show real quick before we go. Our episode with Heather Cox Richardson is approaching about 500,000 viewers if you add up Substack and YouTube. We got about 350,000 viewers on YouTube. If you want to support this show, become a subscriber. And if you're watching this on Substack, also, we want to make you a subscriber, but we had a lot of subscriptions over the weekend. And I believe on Substack, we're well over 100,000 viewers on Substack, which is just terrific. And so this is, be sure to describe, it matters. It shows that you support independent media. Folks, you are not going to find our friends in the corporate media telling Donald Trump that we're not going to take his shit lying down. We're not going to take his dictator shit lying down. That only happens on independent media. And, Dave was, our friend Dave Aronberg was saying, oh, Jim uses colorful language. You're damn right I do. Because the moment calls for it. So keep on subscribing, keep on supporting this show, keep on supporting shows like ours, keep on supporting independent media. We are here to hold this administration accountable. We are here to say what needs to be said. We're not going to be pushed around by a wannabe dictator. We're not going to be bullied by a wannabe dictator. It's about we the people. And with that, thanks everybody for watching. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening. Good night. Thanks for watching.